What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Path of the Network Marketer. It is day 39, episode 39. All right, so part two. This is part two in how to podcast a guide. All right, so if you haven't, if you haven't listened to yesterday's episode yet, part one of this series, go ahead and listen to part one because I want to make sure that you are completing the steps in order and not moving on until you do that. Yesterday's episode, yesterday's assignment is really one of the most important to getting started, and that is making a list of 25 topics. So go back to listen to episode 38 of this show, which is part one of how to podcast, and then do the assignment and then hop on to today's episode. Now, if you've done the assignment, great. Thank you for coming back. You're going to have part two today. Also, I want to continue to reiterate the three principles for me as to why we want to simplify things as much as possible, right? We want to keep things simple because number one, we want to launch the show, get it on its feet as soon and as quickly as possible. Number two, we want to keep things simple because we want to launch, and then that way we can find your voice and get into the groove much more quickly and sooner. And then number three, we want to keep things as simple as possible because we want you to be able to stay consistent with your show in the long term. Remember, 2 years is the benchmark. All right, so that said, in terms of gear, this is one of the things that could really hold people up because in the space, I still hear people, well, you need X, Y, and Z tech. You need this mic. You need that program. And really, guys, you don't. Yes, does it help? Sure, of course. But you don't need it right on the onset, right? And again, for me, it's removing as many barriers as possible to getting started. You want to get started quickly. You want to get started as soon as possible because, for me, I delayed this process for months. And had I known what I know now, I could have gotten started much sooner. So gear is one of those things that always holds people up. You don't have to have professional gear. And even from my own experience, guys, in the last year or so that I've been podcasting, I've actually stripped things down from a gear standpoint. I started off because I'm a musician, right? I have a vocal mic, a very professional, very nice recording vocal mic. I also have an interface to connect that mic to my laptop, and my laptop is a MacBook, which MacBooks are designed to do studio recordings that you can record professional quality, almost professional quality on a Mac if you have the right gear. So I was recording with all this gear in this circumstance where it was quiet. I had to record late at night to minimize noise. And yeah, my show sounded great. If you go listen to Path of the Jedi, those first couple of episodes the first almost year actually. I didn't start stripping it down till this past summer. But anyways, the first 9-10 months, of course it sounds amazing. When I stripped it down, did it make that much of a difference? No, I really don't think so. And I'll tell you how far I stripped it down. But if you listen to the very most recent episode of Path of the Jedi, that's all done on my phone, guys. Go check that out wherever you're listening to podcasts. Path of the Jedi. I just released an episode this past Wednesday, and it sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. I mean, I always test the audio, the playback, and I go to my car. I hook up my phone to the radio there, and I listen to it, and it sounds amazing. And I'll tell you exactly what I use. I used my iPhone, which currently is the iPhone X, which is the iPhone 10. So even my phone is, it's like 4 or 5 years old at this point, and I'm using wired earbuds, right? And that's it. For this particular show, I'm not even recording on GarageBand, which is what I do for Path of the Jedi. For this particular show, I'm recording on video first. I'm just shooting a video, and then I'm ripping the audio file from that particular video. I'm extracting the audio, and then I'm tweaking it just a little bit in post to balance out the sound. That's it. So the instructions for today's episode in part two is minimize your gear. Don't think about gear too much. You can always upgrade as you go, but again, as the main thing is getting started, and you can get started pretty much with what you have. Generally speaking, everybody has some kind of smartphone or smart device, right? I think people will have a smartphone before they even have a laptop, right? Very few people will even have a laptop, whereas almost everybody has a smartphone. So whatever smartphone you have, I'm sure you'll also have a dedicated earpiece or I know most everybody's on Bluetooth now, so I'm sure you can use Bluetooth. For me, again, I'm using wired earbuds, and if you go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, you can see that I'm recording this video and this podcast with wired earbuds. So whatever phone or platform you happen to use or have access to, I use the iPhone. Of course, on iPhone we have GarageBand, and again the microphone and the earpiece. That's all you need. You just hit record, right? Record your show, and again, if you have your 25 topics, you should be okay. Record your first episode, and even if you want to do a few trial runs, record 5 to 10 minutes of you talking about whatever you want to talk about. I mean, you might as well go ahead and start trying to record your first episode. But yeah, record 5 to 10 minutes of your first episode, and well, record your whole first episode. I mean, why not? If it's a test run, it's a test run. If it ends up being good, you might as well use it, right? And then play it back in your ear and see how it sounds. Now, with the whatever particular recording program you have, I don't know, outside of iPhone, I'm sure phones will have some kind of dedicated audio recorder, and if not, you can find one in whatever app store or Google Apps or whatever that you have on your phone, that you can use, right? Like again, technology is so amazing that you really can do so much with this little micro supercomputer that you have in the palm of your hand. So find whatever recording program, and once you've recorded it, all you really have to do is just listen to it in your playback, and then tweak the EQ, the equalizer, just a little bit. And the tweaks that I generally make to kind of make the sound more rich is I boost the bass, I boost the low end just a hair, right? Like maybe just a little bit. On GarageBand for the phone, there's not much of like as far as numbers go, so I don't know how many units. It's just like a hair, right? That's my unit. And then I also boost the high end, the treble, a hair more than the low end, right? So it really depends. It really depends on your particular ear and how you sound in the recording. But yeah, just boost it so it sounds nice to your ear, and that's really it. That's really it. Now, of course, if you want to get a little bit more complicated, record, find a quiet location, but don't get too caught up in location as far as like, okay, I got to build noise reduction panels on my walls, or I gotta talk and record in my closet. I've tried all of that, and really, like, none of it really amounts to a hill of beans. Again, we want to remove all those kind of barriers so that you can record your show, get it off the ground, stay consistent, and find your voice as soon as possible. And that way, like, the content wins every time. The content wins every time. You can add the bells and whistles. You can add music. You can add. I mean, like, even when I started this show, I didn't even have a really very nice cover photo, right? And still, I don't think my podcast cover is my podcast art isn't all that nice as it is now. Yes, sure, I'll change it, but I'm not worried about that, right? Like, I prefer to just get this stuff out there. I'll adjust as I go. I'll improve as I go. And getting it off the ground is really the most important thing. So use what you have. Use what you have. Record where you can. Hit record on your phone. Tweak it just a little bit to make it sound good to your ears. And then tomorrow we'll talk about how to get it out to the world. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, obviously reach out to me on the socials, and reach out to me here on the show. You can find the best place to reach out to connect with me is on Instagram. It's Cannibal Ron. That's my that's my handle, @Cannibal Ron on Instagram. Or you can find me on Facebook as well. Facebook and YouTube. It's Path of the Network Marketer with Ronnie Cruz. So hit me up with any questions so far on parts 1 and 2. Of course, we'll go into part 3 tomorrow. So until then, guys, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.